वो हैं रेनू एंड जेफरी वुडब्रिज। इनसे बातचीत होगी। इनकी बहुत ही अच्छी किताब है, बहुत ही प्यारी मोहब्बत भरी किताब है, लिविंग लविंग एंड लर्निंग टू लव मोर। लिविंग लविंग एंड लर्निंग टू लव मोर, इसी के ऊपर बात होगी। और प्रोग्राम के दूसरे भाग में रजनीश धवन जी से हमारी बातचीत होगी। उनकी किताब अमृतसर 1919 जो है बहुत ही चर्चा में है और इसी के बारे में ये जानकारी देंगे। ध्यान से सुनते रहिए प्रोग्राम को, बहुत ही दिलचस्प बातें आपको सुनने को मिलेगी। लेकिन फिलहाल आइए लेते हैं एक छोटी सी कमर्शियल ब्रेक।
लाइए, tell us living well companion home with fall detection या go और save.
We'll be talking about their book, Living, Loving and Learning to Love More. Renu and Geoffrey Woodbridge, thank you very much for joining us virtually and welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Newton, and thank you to Spice Radio. We love your program. Such a variety and diverse range of topics. Always so interesting. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, thank you. Tell me a little about yourself, your background, your education, and what made you write this book.
Hi, Newton. As Renu said, thank you very much for having us on your show, and thank you, Spice Radio. My name is Geoffrey Woodbridge. I'm actually a qualified public sector accountant, and I worked in municipalities in Britain for 25 years and in taxation organisations in Canada for 23 years, and I've now retired. I was born into a middle-class family, and many people know me by my Hindu name, Jay.
Okay.
I'm really passionate about writing, and the subject of my writing is illustrating love's wisdom and truth through the medium of illustrative stories. I really believe that it's loving energy that supports the world, and we all have a very simple choice to make in our lives, either living them from a loving perspective, in which case I believe we gain a broader definition of oneself, or we can live it from the opposite, which is living an egotistical life, in which I think we oppose the world's genuine progress. I see things in terms of karma, which aligns me in a way with the Hindu outlook. And for me, karma means applying love, trying to avoid ego in all our actions, behaviour, so that we can contribute to a better world.
Yes, I agree with Jay. Our book, Living, Loving and Learning to Love More.
Very interesting name, Living, Loving and Learning to Love More.
Yes. Really, in a nutshell, it's the summary of all of our lives. I think this is a book that really came through us and not from us.
Okay.
It's divine inspiration, and we were meant to write this book. We both believe that we live in a universe which is a loving universe.
Yes.
Where we get loving messages, we get support and encouragement to be our best selves. And for us, although my mother was a Hindu, she taught me that I could go and pray in any religious place, Gurdwara, Mandir, church, anywhere, because all paths lead to the same God.
Very true.
And God is love. God is not a being in heaven, a person somewhere, but it's a loving energy. We are all surrounded by this loving energy, which is God. And God is known by so many different names. Nobody has a superior claim on God. We all just are immersed in love, loving energy, in this ocean of love, and we are all droplets in the ocean of love.
Very well said. God is love. Renu, tell me, how is your book relevant in today's climate, and how does it relate to the reader?
I think particularly during this time of COVID, we all have had so much time for reflection and introspection. and to decide our priorities and to see how our lives are progressing. Are they going the way they're meant to go? Are they healthy? Are they filled with love? Are we giving and receiving love? We all know that love is important. But really, we're kind of all working so hard, spinning away in our work, trying to do the best we can. And this is a book where Jasmine, who at the beginning of the book is having a nervous breakdown through overwork, she reflects on her life and begins to learn what is important in order to heal.
I would also like to say, Newton, that one of the pronounced circumstances today is an increasing loneliness amongst people and a decreasing longevity. And both of these things, I believe, come from the fact that gradually we're getting more and more into ego and less confident about love. Single person households are increasing rapidly. People don't seem to want to marry as much. The divorce rate is going up. And this can be simply illustrative, really, that people are not able to love as they were. They don't understand love as they used to. And people are getting more selfish. So I think it's highly relevant to try to talk about love and talk about Jasmine's example, where she got really immersed in her work to the extent that her relationship with her husband suffered. And I think we can all relate to that immersion in work and getting more and more busy. It's also relevant, I think, that it's amazing to me that as humankind develops, and we've developed through various ages, we're now in the technological age, but nonetheless, true wisdom has remained the same. And we have to keep reinventing the wheel. Every generation has to discover the same truths, which is a little bit sad, but the wisdom is timeless. And it's the same wisdom that was developed in the Vedas and in other ancient civilizations. It's a very simple wisdom that our guiding principles should relate to our loving relationships. Our loving relationships always emerge on top. So, for example, when people pass away, they're never remembered for hard work. They're only remembered for how they touched other people's lives.
How they made us feel.
Renu and Geoffrey, if you permit me, I would love to read a few lines from your book. Is it okay?
Oh, we would love that.
That would be wonderful.
Joy's message led me to understand that my intentions behind all my action should be guided by the simple question: do they increase or decrease the love in my life? If they decrease the love, I abandon them or modify them somehow. If they increase the love, they are worthwhile and I go ahead with them. Wow, beautifully written. Now I would like to ask both of you, what were your intentions when writing this book, Geoffrey and Renu?
Our intentions were to write this novel, which is a very interesting love story. But at the same time, Jasmine and Ted, their lives are surrounded by love and guiding universal principles, which are very real. And they're very real and true for all of us. So we're hoping that the reader will take away some of the guidance about love. We're not experts, but if something's useful to you, please take it. And if not, just apply the same principles in your own life.
I'd like to just point something out, that in writing a love story, we've tried to write a sort of realistic love story. So many love stories that you come across They're rather artificial. It's boy meets girl. It's based on glamour and infatuation.
Okay.
And they live happily ever after, which is a bit of a fairy tale. With our love story, Jasmine and Ted have actually been married for 13 years, and they're dealing with the real issues of a relationship. So I think that's one aspect I'd like to mention. But the other aspect I'd like to just clarify is that the book, as Renu has said, we're talking about universal spiritual principles.
Yeah.
And by this term, we're meaning things such as, for example, we reap as we sow, which is an example of a guiding principle. All universal spiritual principles, I think, are based on love. And the one that I mentioned is a Christian version of a spiritual principle. But, of course, Hindus have the same spiritual principle, which they define as karma. And karma also, I believe, revolves around love. The more loving we are, I believe, the more karma we earn. And the more egotistical we are and selfish, then we lose karma or we get bad karma.
Yeah. You know what? People, they talk about love, but they don't understand what is love. Geoffrey, tell me, your book is primarily about love. So what is your definition of love?
It's a very good question. There are hundreds of definitions of love. My definition of love actually mirrors something Socrates, the Greek philosopher, said. And he said, when you like a flower, you just pluck it. But when you love a flower, you water it daily.
Wow.
And I really love that definition of love because it talks to me about service, devotion, genuine caring. It talks about battling our ego so that instead of thinking of self alone, we put our partner or the other person at least equal, if not first. And so I find that's a very powerful definition.
Very well said, very well said.
I really like the definition
Of love.
Of love, which is love is when you treat another person's heart just as your own. It's about having empathy and kindness. And another one I like is from the Bible, which goes, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy.
Wow.
It does not boast.
Very nice.
Proud.
Very nice. Thank you, Renu. Thank you, Geoffrey. Let's take a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. I'll put you on hold, okay? Thanks. वर्कशॉप का ये प्रोग्राम है स्पाइस रेडियो पर। मैं हूँ आपकी होस्ट नूतन ठाकुर और इस समय हमारे मेहमान हैं रेनू एंड जेफरी वुडब्रिज एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट देयर बुक। किताब का नाम बहुत ही सुंदर है, लिविंग लविंग एंड लर्निंग टू लव मोर। वेलकम बैक अगेन रेनू एंड जेफरी वुडब्रिज।
Thank you, Nathan.
You are welcome. My next question is for you, for both of you actually. Who and what inspired you in your writing?
We were inspired through divine inspiration.
Divine inspiration, wow, okay.
And what's missing from it.
Okay.
And so Jasmine decides that she and Ted have a lot of learning and reflecting to do about love.
In writing this book, we've tried to explore our own spiritual journey of love. And we reached a conclusion at the end that really love is everybody's sole purpose. One of our discoveries has been how powerful words are. This is reflected in the Vedic practice of mantras, of course.
Okay.
But it's something that was empirically proved by a Japanese businessman called Masaru Emoto. And he conducted experiments freezing water crystals and saying words to them. And when he spoke the word love or kindness to them, he got perfect symmetrical crystals. And when he spoke hate and fear, he got broken crystals that weren't even fully formed. So this was one of many experiments that have proven the power of words. So we wanted to use the inspiration we felt from this to try to create something that would inspire readers to pursue love and maybe to reconsider love, because most of the world's problems today have been caused through ego and a lack of love. And the way to fix all of the problems of the world, we both believe, is simply for us to become more mature and to apply love to them.
Geoffrey and Renu, I think, in my opinion, every day is a learning process for all of us. What did you learn when writing your book, and what were your conclusions about life and love?
We learned, very importantly, that love gives peace, serenity, gives us good health, gives us balance in our lives, and gives us a sort of internal power where we're able to connect in our soul with God, with each other, with our friends and the community. The converse is living in ego, where we feel we're superior, and it's about a feeling of disease and lack of health. We're living in external power, which leads to a feeling of insanity and poor health. So I think that was the ultimate conclusion. We want to try and live our lives with love, because love is healthy.
Wow, love is healthy, yes.
It doesn't mean we don't disagree with anyone. In the words of Obama, we have to learn to agree to disagree without being disagreeable.
Yes.
And there are times in our lives we will disagree with our loved ones, and we will have to try and find a win-win solution. I think the example that Jay gave us from Mesro Emoto and the crystals experiment is a very important one, because the human body is made largely of water. And if we live with words of love in our heart, we actually affect the well-being in our bodies. There's a new science called psychoneuroimmunology, which shows us the effect that words have on our health, and how important it is to think good thoughts, because it's going to affect our sense of well-being. Okay. Well, this term habits is an important one. It stands for anti-best interest trait.
Wait, start.
It is often said that love is a journey, not a destination. And we've actually drawn a chart which we call 4 levels of romantic true love, which shows how through a love affair we start with infatuation, which is actually a little bit egotistical, and then gradually we move through a mental, emotional and spiritual state.
So at the beginning, it's a very heady attraction.
But the main point of these levels is, as we've learned, is that as we go through loving, it leads us through this maturing connection to eventual spiritual enlightenment. And love is very enlightening. So I think that is a major thing that we've learned, that we try to convey in our book.
You draw attention to gossip in your book and mention a new term, habits. This interests me, and I'm really curious to know what this is about.
Habits stand for anti-best interest traits.
Anti-best?
Anti-best interest traits.
Okay.
We all have them. We all have gifts, and we all have these negative traits that stop us from receiving the love in our lives. These anti-best interest traits can be very insidious. They come on us very gradually. And it's important for each of us, through self-observation, to identify our anti-best interest traits. I like what Sadhguru says. when he talks about anger, that sometimes we get angry with each other and then return to normal. If you begin to make this a habit, you get more and more angry, and it becomes more and more difficult to return to normal.
Yeah.
So this habit in our lives becomes an anti-best interest trait because it stops us from receiving the love in our lives, and also it gives us ill health.
Renu, or Geoffrey, how can readers learn more about your book?
We have a website, and it's very easy to get to the website.
Okay.
It's called https://lovemorepublishing.com.
lovemorepublishing.com.
You don't have to buy our book. You can go on this website and read an extract. You can order it from the library. We're not doing this as a business. We really want for all of us to focus on the love in our lives and
So nice.
increase it.
So nice. Geoffrey and Renu, are you writing another book? And when do you want to publish it?
We are writing another book. We're writing a book of short stories.
What's the name of your book?
Tentatively, we're going to call it The Path of Love. And we're hoping to publish it at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. It's going to comprise 6 short stories, probably.
Short stories, okay.
Again, these will be illustrative stories, hopefully about the spiritual aspects of love. I find it really fascinating, this idea that the opposite of love is ego, and that the way ego and love interplay in our lives. And so this book, Living, Loving and Learning to Love More, begins to focus on that, and I'm trying to develop more insight into this in our next book.
It's been very surprising to us in our lives that quite often we don't know how to receive love. I actually thought it would be our experience that people don't know how to give love, but actually the receiving of love, because of our anti-best interest traits, is really very predominant. We all have so many habits which stop us from receiving love. In our book, Living, Loving and Learning to Love More.
Living, Loving and Learning to Love More.
Love
Yes.
More. Jasmine comes across a circle of party friends who gossip a lot. And she identifies that this is a trait that stops giving and receiving of love. And I would love just to read a really short extract about it, if that's possible.
Yeah, go ahead.
Gossip is really a terrible thing, Jasmine. Apart from its violence, it propagates great negativity. The tongue is truly mightier than the sword, especially when wielded by a practiced gossip. It can produce deep wounds. There's so many wonderful things we can each contribute to the world, and so much abundance. It's therefore really very sad that so many are lost in a negative mind frame, bringing great harm to themselves and others. In fact, whenever somebody gossips about another, they take on the bad karma of the person they gossip about. In fact, they sweep the other person's house clean of bad karma, spiritually speaking.
It's very profound, we've noticed, and it's a subject often discussed now, how toxic gossip is for the person gossiping too. And whatever bad actions people undertake poisons their own system. And Renu mentioned earlier about dis-ease, and this is one of the causes of dis-ease. And so it sort of goes hand in hand with the other idea that loving relationships increase our longevity. So the opposite of that is that if we're egotistical and we gossip, then actually we're decreasing our longevity.
All toxic thoughts in our minds and these negative stories about another really causes us poor health, apart from taking on the karma or bad karma of other people.
Very true, Renu. And it's lovely talking to you, Renu and Geoffrey Woodbridge. Any message, before you leave, any message for our listeners?
Well, we hope that they're all able to self-observe and take time from their busy routines to just think about things, and we wish them all a very loving and successful life.
Good, thank you.
Franklin had to reassess her criteria of success. It was originally, she felt she had to work to the top of the career ladder and achieve the maximum success. But in the end, she discovers that word balance that we all know about, but we don't actually practice. And the most important thing about balance is to be giving and receiving love to our spouses, family, friends, community.
Wow. Very nice.
And
Very
to
true.
renew and to refresh our connection with God on a daily basis and go inside and connect.
Thank you very much, Renu and Geoffrey Woodbridge. Thank you for joining us virtually. We'll talk to you soon.
Newton.
Thank you, Newton.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Spice Radio.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good
Have a
night.
good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye now.
Bye, Newton.